What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're doing the second half of the fifth tier, the Ancient Mysteries Iceberg. So if you haven't checked out the first couple parts, make sure you go check those out. I'll try to link the playlist below. Other than that, man, just make sure you like and subscribe and tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, and we're gonna get right into it. Okay, so first up on the tier is the Pyramids of Argolis. So the Pyramids of Argolis actually refer to several ancient structures located in the plains of Argold, Greece. The best known of these is called the Pyramid of Hellington. In addition to at least two pyramids which no longer exist, there are two surviving pyramid-like structures that are still available to kind of study and, excavate and stuff like that. One, like I said, is at Hellington, and the other one is located at Ligerio, which is a village near the ancient theater of Epidaurus. And basically, although these structures are of great interest, written sources are super scarce and there's almost no mention of them in any ancient sources. The only one I could really find was Pausanias, who was an ancient Greek traveler and geographer from the 2nd century AD. He mentions two buildings resembling pyramids in one of his written works. And that's about it, to be honest. There's really not a lot of information on it. I'm assuming that they're still studying up on these, but yeah, we're moving on to the next one. Okay, up next is the Ogdoads. So the Ogdoad was a system of 8 deities, 4 gods and their consorts. The number 4 was considered to represent completeness, so it's always 4 with 4. Each pair represented the male and female aspects of the 4 creative power and sources. Nun and Nanuet represented the primeval waters. He and Hauhet represented eternity. Kuk and Kuket represented darkness, and Amun and Amunet represented air, or that which is hidden. However, the gods differ from one source to another. The gods were all depicted with frogs' heads, while the goddesses had heads of serpents. Only Amun went on to be considered as more than a primeval force. These 8 elements interact and cause an explosion, possibly the Big Bang, not sure, but that's basically the whole idea. And the burst of energy which released caused the primeval mound located at Hierapolis, but originally known as the Isle of Flame, to rise from the water. It was thought that the gods and goddesses of the Ogdoad then ruled the earth during the Golden Age. When they died, they took up residence in the Duat, or the underworld basically, and they ensured that the Nile continued to flow. So basically, the Ogdoad is just a representation of the Big Bang, is what I got from reading all this, and basically just like starting everything on Earth, you know what I mean? Like it says right here. That's pretty dope though, to be honest. But the name is because that took me a while. Up next are ley lines. So in 1921, amateur archaeologist Alfred Watkins made a discovery. He noticed that ancient sites at different points all over the globe all fell into some sort of an alignment. Be them sites man-made or natural, they all fell into a pattern, usually a straight line. He coined these lines lays, and then later changed it to ley lines, which makes way more sense in my mind. And in doing so, he opened up a world of supernatural and spiritual beliefs. To those who do believe in ley lines, the concept is quite simple. Ley lines are lines that crisscross all over the globe like longitude and latitude signs. They are dotted with monuments and natural landforms and carry along with them rivers of supernatural energy. Along these lines, at places that they intersect, there are pockets of concentrated energy that can be harnessed by certain individuals. Watkins backed up the existence of his ley lines by pointing out many monuments around the globe that can seemingly be connected by a straight line. For example, stretching from the southern tip of Ireland all the way to Israel, there is a straight line that connects several different landforms that all bear the name Michael or some form of it. Though ley lines are geographically accurate on occasion, the existence of these ley lines have been contested since he basically made this observation. One researcher, Paul Devereaux, claimed that the concept was completely bogus and that there was no way this could exist, and that a reference to it in an occult book was the only reason that people actually even believed in this stuff. Jeff Ballinger, who is the author of Paranormal Encounters, A Look at the Evidence which discusses the supernatural significance of ley lines, agreed. I think he even has the supernatural guy that studies the ley lines agreeing with him, saying that this idea is bogus. He pointed out the fact that the term could be used to describe a line in any length or location, that basically just detracts from its validity, and claimed that it was not specific enough to use, which tons of people agreed, because I mean, if you just put a line from anywhere on to anywhere on the map, you're probably lining up a bunch of stuff, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I mean, the world's happened, so who knows? But we're moving on to the next one. Who were the Guanches? So the Guanches were the first known inhabitants of the Canary Islands. They were the indigenous people when the Spanish conquered the island in the 15th century. The Guanches were primitive people. Some historians actually believe that they were the original inhabitants of Atlantis. I highly doubt it, but just in case. They were very tall, The men were normally from 5 feet 9 inches to 6 feet 2 inches in height. I don't know where they get an idea of tall from that, but that's crazy. I'm like 5'9". I've never been called tall in my life. So Guanches were extraordinarily strong and very nimble, which was attributed to their open cave and outdoor life. Descriptions of the Guanches describe them as having a natural strength in body and soul, being courageous, intelligent, dignified, friendly, passionate, and humble, traits that enable them to face dangers, survive calamities, and befriend their enemies. The Guanches loved to sing and dance, gamble, and hold sporting contests. They also gave sincere hospitality and had deep respect for their elders and a profound love for their family. John de Betancourt was a French explorer who in 1402 led an expedition to the Canary Islands. He remarked that they had not seen a more beautiful race in the world. He also commented that they would have had fine minds too if anyone had taken the trouble to actually educate them. Food was scarce and they had to be frugal. Typically their diet consisted of gofio, wild fruit and fish, and on occasion, on very super special occasions, they would actually roast meat. The Guanches caught fish by dividing the water with lighted torches, and the fish were frightened into reed nets. They had no knowledge of metal. They were primitive because of their isolated position, and this is the reason why the Guanches never progressed beyond methods of the Stone Age. The Guanches had been linked to the Egyptians because of their habit to mummify the dead. Although the Guanches as a race are no longer in existence, it seems many of their traits have been passed down through generations of the Canarians. They too have a love of music and dancing. They are very proud and protective of their families and always offer hospitality. And basically the only living, or the last thing that is relevant to the Guanches still around today is a whistling language still practiced in La Gomera, which is said to have derived from the original Guanches. So that's about it, but we're moving on to the next one. Up next are the Sajama Lines. The Sajama Lines is an ancient network of pre-Hispanic linear paths located in the Altiplano and highlands of western Bolivia near the Nevado Sajama volcano. The web of lines covers an area of almost 22,525 square kilometers, almost 15 times larger than the Nazca Lines, situated over 1,000 kilometers away, and ran a combined length of 16,000 kilometers. Now, very little is actually known about who constructed the lines, and with some sources suggesting that they may date as early back as 1000 BC, being constructed over many generations spanning hundreds of years. The lines were created by scraping aside the darker material of the oxidized rock and soil on the Alpino surface to reveal the lighter subsurface layers. Lines vary in length, with some reaching as far as 20 kilometers, passing relatively straight through rugged topography and natural obstacles. It's been theorized that the lines were used by indigenous people to navigate routes on pilgrimages to sacred sites and to connect them with villages dotted throughout the landscape, basically. With the lines being used into early colonial periods to connect Catholic churches, hilltop shrines, and chapels by the Ameri people. Anyways, yeah, basically, it's just a bunch of lines. There's not much known about them besides the fact that they connected churches, shrines, burial towers, all this stuff, and it's all due to these ancient people, the Ameri people, who were the indigenous people in the area. So moving on to the next one. All right, up next is the Iron Pillar of Delhi. Oh my god. In the Qutbi complex of Delhi stands one of the most curious metal objects in the world, the Iron Pillar of Delhi. The pillar is a 23-foot high Kirti Stanba, or a column of fame or victory column. It weighs more than 6 tons and is made of 98% wrought iron. It is believed that the Iron Pillar of Delhi was crafted using a forge welding, and the pillar is ornate and awe-inspiring. But no one knows just how long or mysterious its history is. According to a popular translation of the Brahmi script upon the pillar is made for a king, presumably one of the Gupta period given the era that it was actually created in. Which Gupta king the Iron Pillar was made for is not made clear by the inscription though, so they don't really know exactly who it is. However, it is widely believed that the king in which the inscription refers to is Chandragupta Bikmatrya. It was also made to honor one of the most important Hindu gods, Vishnu. Now, the purpose of the pillar itself is actually one of its many mysteries. Some say that it was originally supposed to be a flagstaff made for the king in the inscription. Others say that it was a sundial in its original home in Madhya Pradesh. And why it is no longer in its original location in Madhya Pradesh is yet another mystery. There is no evidence of who moved the pillar or how it was moved or even why it was moved, basically. And it was moved about 1,000 years ago, so hopefully we find out one day. Going to the next thing though. All right, up next is the Paracas Candelabra. So the Paracas Candelabra is a prehistoric geoglyph found in the Paracas Peninsula at Pisco Bay, Peru. It is estimated to date back to around 200 BC, although many believe it is much older. With a large branch-like appearance, the purpose and meaning of the candelabra is still unknown, so they don't know the exact reason. Some of the speculations that people have given out there have been that it could have been either like a godly symbol, some type of, religious thing, whatever, a gigantic sensograph, or simply a navigation tool for sailors, basically like a lighthouse or a thing just to let them know where they're going. But nobody really knows for sure. Now, the candelabra is estimated to be approximately 600 to 800 feet tall and can be seen from far away as 12 miles out at sea. The geoglyph was created by cutting 2 feet deep into the hardened soil with rocks placed around the figure. While scientists cannot be certain regarding the age of the candelabra, pottery found in the area was radiocarbon dated to around 200 BC. It is believed that the pottery belonged to the Paracas civilization, but it has never been confirmed who was responsible for actually creating this geoglyph. They don't know if the Paracas made it or if somebody before them made it. Like they say, a lot of people assume that this is a lot older than 200 BC. And basically the shape of the geoglyph itself is sort of hard to describe. Basically, some say it looks like a cactus plant, while others believe it looks more like a 3-branched candlestick, hence the name candelabra. And it begins with a single stem at the bottom, then it splits into 3 smaller branches, and each of those separate out again. The conquistadors supposedly believed that the geoglyph represents the Holy Trinity and took it as a sign of a good omen and a sign that basically they should proceed and conquer and Christianize the locals. We're just gonna move on from that one to the next one. Up next is the Great Serpent Mound. So the Serpent Mound is the world's largest surviving effigy mound from the prehistoric era. Located in southern Ohio, the 411-meter-long Native American structure has been excavated a few times since the late 1800s, but the origins of the Serpent Mound are still a mystery. As the name suggests, Serpent Mound resembles a giant sinuous snake with a curled tail at the west end and a head at the east end, and 7 winding coils in between. In all, the snake stretches a quarter of a mile and ranges from 1.2 to 1.5 meters, or about 3.5 to 4, like almost 5 feet in height, and 6 to 7 meters, or about 25 feet in width. Serpent Mound is located on the edge of the high plateau overlooking the Ohio Bush Creek in Adams County, Ohio, about 73 miles east of the city of Cincinnati. So if you're out there, go check this out, man. Let me know, send me some pictures, you know what I mean? I'm trying to see this. It's on the site of an ancient meteor impact dated to around 300 million years ago. The crater, measuring around 18 to 14 kilometers, or about like 5 to 9 miles in diameter, is known as Serpent Mound Crater. And basically in 2014, another research team carbon dated a number of other charcoal samples, placing the construction of the Serpent Mound in between 381 BC and 44 BC, with a mean date of 321 BC. So that's basically where they're thinking this was created. Somewhere in between that, they're guessing somewhere closer to the 321, just because that's like the median. I mean, that's the middle average. As the new research suggests, once again, that the Adena were the original builders of the Serpent Mound. The research team believes that the 4 ancient people were most likely modified or renovating it, and pointing to the fact that the other nearby mounds also show evidence of repair or modification by other prehistoric groups. So basically, the original people that made it were the Adena people, and then they believe that the 4 ancient people were just basically renovating it, or almost basically rebuilding it, kind of making sure it didn't break down. So at least that was pretty dope. Even over generations and different prehistorical groups, people are taking care of this shit. That's dope. Anyways, moving on to the next thing. I think we got 2 more left on this, so I'm trying to get done with this. Up next is the Screaming Mummy. In 1881, the Deir el-Bahari royal cache was discovered in Luxor, where priests from the 21st and 22nd dynasties hid the corpses of royal members from previous dynasties to protect them from grave robbers. Inside the Deir el-Bahari cache included a mummy that was dubbed the Screaming Mummy. Recent studies with CT scans and DNA carried out by Zahi Hawass and the scientific team of the Egyptian Mummy Project proved that the Screaming Mummy is the corpse of Prince Pentuar, who is the son of King Ramses III, who was forced to commit suicide by hanging as a punishment for his involvement in the killing of his father in what was known as the harem plot. The murderous son was further punished by not mummifying his body and wrapping it with sheepskin, which indicates that he was considered unclean and destined to hell in the afterlife, while other mummies were wrapped in white linen and carefully mummified. So basically, they just said, fuck this kid.
Get fucked!
And that's the reason why you're unclean, you're going to hell. We're not even going to wrap you up in this white linen. We're wrapping you up in some dirty ass sheepskin. Like, You know what I mean? They basically put him in a condom, bro. Like, at the end of the day, they put him in a condom.
Die of gonorrhea and rot in hell.
Anyways, the same royal cache in the Deir el Bahari contained a mummy of a woman showing signs of terror, pain, and screaming on her face, known as the Screaming Woman Mummy. Her head is tilted to the right side and her legs are bent and wrapped at the ankle, while other mummies are closed-mouthed and placed in a straight position. Writings in the heretic language on linen scrolls about the woman screaming mummy refer to it as the royal daughter, the royal sisters Meritmen. However, the mummy was considered unknown and was labeled the mummy of the unknown woman, as there were many princesses with the same name. So basically, they don't know who this lady is, and now she's forever labeled as the mummy of the unknown woman, or the screaming woman mummy. So there you go. Alright, so second to last is the Anasazi. The Anasazi is a name given to the ancestral Puebloans who were an ancient Native American culture that flourished in the southwestern United States. Scholars believe that the Anasazi culture began around the 12th century BC and continued to grow and flourish until ending suddenly around 1350 AD. It spanned the area of the US most commonly known today as the Four Corners, encompassing basically southeastern Utah, northeastern Arizona, northwestern New Mexico, and southwestern Colorado. Basically, it's the exact spot where all four corners of those states touch. I'm pretty sure that's what the Four Corners is, where you can stand on the one spot and you're in all four states at once, technically. But that is the area in which these people were actually living at the time. Trade and art also flourished during this period, and domesticated turkeys first appeared. The Anasazi built three major settlements during this period: Mesa Verde, Chaco Canyon, and Taos Pueblo. During the course of the 12th and 13th centuries, though, the Anasazi got up and just disappeared from their settlements and cities completely. Absolutely just dipped. Scholars are still unsure of the exact reason of the mass exodus. Possible factors include climate change, drought, environmental changes such as erosion and deforestation, religious changes, warfare with other groups, or just an influx of new people and cultures into the area, which kind of drove these people out. But the Anasazi, why they actually just all disappeared and left these three big settlements is still a mystery, and it's pretty crazy because when you actually see the pictures of the settlements, they're built right into the walls. Pretty crazy stuff, man. But we're moving on to the last thing finally. Alright, and last up for this tier is the Cabeiri. Now, the Greek pantheon of gods has many members. Not all were universal gods such as Zeus or Poseidon, instead being tied to a specific place or niche activity, and not all were universally understood. There were cults of secret gods as well. So basically, there were just tons of stuff, and the Cabeiri was one of these secret worship cults. This group of strange Chthonic deities were worshipped in a mystery cult and were closely associated with Hephaestus, the blacksmith of the gods. Centered in the North Aegean islands of Lemos and possibly Samaris and Thebes, which was east of Greece, much of this cult is not fully understood. It seems to draw on pre-Greek and other non-Greek elements from around the Mediterranean and even further far away. Basically, they just took a bunch of different inspiration from pre-Greek, non-Greek, just different cultures and brought it all in with this cult. That makes sense. However, why these cultures actually contributed to the Cabeiri still remains mysterious to this day. Nobody really knows why. At its heart, the Cabeiri were a group of gods who were worshipped by the initiated. However, the identities of these gods are not so easy to pin down, and any attempt to reconstruct the mysteries of the cult are limited by its secrecy. So they don't even really know the exact gods. They're going off of a few that they have some descriptions of, but we do, however, know of twin gods known as Daemones, who oversaw the erratic dances of Samaritans in honor of the fertility god Demeter, her daughter Persephone, and the divine witch Hecate. The pair were well-known metalworkers, the dwarfish sons of the god Hephaestus, who worked at their father's Lemnian forge. However, the identities of the other gods worshipped there were a secret, and basically offerings were just simply made to the gods. No specific name, their names were never recorded, the identities of the gods were never recorded, and the initiation ceremonies were never recorded either. So basically nobody has ever been able to learn the secrets of the Cabeiri, and it's pretty crazy because honestly I think this one sounds super interesting. I wish I could find more information on it. This is basically everything I could find, but that's about it for that one. Alright, and that was all of tier 5. We still have tier 6, and then we are done with the Ancient Mysteries Iceberg. I have a few ideas of what I'm going to start after this. I just been sick for the whole last week, bro. You could probably tell if you watched this whole video. I've been fucking up this entire video. Dude, this thing took me like 4 hours to record, bro. This shit usually takes me like 2, maybe 3. This shit took me like 4, almost 5 hours, bro. I'm dead. I haven't slept in a few days. I've just been sick, bro. But anyways, we're getting back to it, getting back to life. if you did watch this far, I appreciate you. I got a new video on the top 10 worst dictators coming out sometime this week also with this. And if you haven't checked out the last one, if you enjoy Stranger Things, that show, I really only got put onto it maybe like a month ago. I binged the whole thing. It was pretty good. But I did a thing basically on, I did a video on Eddie Munson and the actual backstory about him. And that one's pretty crazy. But other than that, man, yeah, just make sure you guys like, subscribe, tell other people, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Make sure y'all stay dangerous, get laid, and that's about it, man. Free to guys. We'll catch y'all next time.